So as with many things in speedrunning, there are nowhere near good or proper discussions or critical discussions. Because as Riekelt would say, that's so negative, it needs its place and time, and if I don't get prepared, I'll poop myself. So I'm a little bit allergic. I don't want to apologize for that. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. So here's the deal. In another comparison, not only in terms of event tech fidelity, we can go at something that's called transparency, that we can directly and immediately compare these two events with each other. On the GDQ page, you can find nowhere more than 3 names that work at GDQ that are confirmed. And these 3 are Mike Uyama, noted as the owner, curious, Matt Merkel, better known as Fat Matty, Fat Merkel. Sorry, Cool Matty. I get it right. Don't worry. I'll do my linguistic propaganda. As Director of Operations, and Kasumi Yogi / Sumichu as Communications Director and Event Manager. So if you are upset like me that GDQ has become very political, of course only to one axis of the political spectrum, I was always thinking that after some discoveries, I thought that they just used Sumichu as a convenient face for it, and I wasn't aware of her position because GDQites really fucking hate being transparent in their position on GDQ. They hate that. Who do they hate it? They can't mention what their position is. They don't mention who they are within the space. And that's pretty much all they do. Not say anything. Unless you watch the events religiously, you probably won't even know that someone like, I think Alpha Blues definitely seems to spearhead something in there. J-Hops and Spike Vegeta seem to be responsible for the hosting desk. But there's no way to verify this, unless you go to their socials. So on their website, this is a charity by the way, they fuck up one of the most basic things, and that is transparency. Has to do with rapport. Why would you give your money to something that clearly isn't transparent and clearly seems to not be playing with a full deck for whatever reason? And I really hate this. And after I've noticed it, I was like, this is something that should actually irk people. This is something that should really confuse people. So the most useful thing that you can find on GDQ is a speedrun guide on how to achieve true auto modding so your chat is nice, clean, and sterile. So no one says things like shit and fuck you. After all, can't have that. It's amazing. This is genuinely amazing. And then I look at ESA. They have a whole tab dedicated to their team. There's like 15 faces in there. The only issue I have with ESA, obviously, as people might know, is my personal beef with Edenal, who I will probably... Well, I mean, he said it first. I'm on his shit list for life, so you know what? Go fuck yourself. We'll talk again in a year. Unless I, for some reason, ever will talk to you on a one-on-one. That could happen. I don't know. At least not for now, let's say that. I think that won't go well. So, the event leads for ESA as lead organizers are Edenal and Planks. And now, if you ask me how you can have 2 leads on something like this on the executive level, and you've never actually done any real work, yeah, okay, then you won't question it, but I do. Because I wonder who actually has to say here. Because Edenal is so vocal and he's everywhere that I am aware of, either he's taking all the bullets for Planks for Planks' sheer lack of competency, or he's just glory hogging. I don't care which way you look at it, by the way. I find both hilarious. But that's the issue that I have with ESA. That's it. And of course the fact that they also seemingly fail to mention who of these people is getting paid and who's not. I think you should do that. I think you should clearly separate who is a volunteer, and who's getting paid for that. Because people, and this is crazy, and this is blowing my mind that no one is talking about this. People are subscribing to you for months even when your marathon isn't on. And you have the gall to not even say who's getting paid. Where is that paper going? Where's the money going? Because it's clearly not always going to a charity. I don't even want to know all your zeros on your paycheck. You can just do a rough. Tell the people how many zeros there are. Tell if you're just volunteering. That's all you have to do. That is genuinely and legitimately, in my estimation, the least that I believe you should do. If we're at the level where we have to discuss also events like Break the Record Live and the continuous weekly events of GDQ, although I think they add absolutely nothing to the space because I don't see any growth. I just see more cheating. I just see more leaderboard manipulation. I see the degradation of src.com. I will hopefully think of this, that whenever I will talk about any SRC records, I will say allegedly or according to them, because they fucking Stalinized the leaderboard. None of these organizations did anything for that. None of these organizations are commenting on that. They all just look at src.com and say, yeah, that's true. What's written there is the objective truth. Which they know is also full of shit. So can someone please tell me how any of you big brains out there can be subscribed to them in an off month where they essentially fundraise for their own organizations and for their own commands, especially when we are currently also for speedrunning in the online era, where it seems like they just make a ton of cash because they do not have to rent out any venues, because that is pretty expensive. That is a lot of work. I recognize that. I'm never saying I don't recognize that. But if the only thing you can do when you're like on the Edenal level is like ask me, well, what would you do differently? I just wouldn't be in your position. I mean, if anyone has ever played Witcher 3, there is a dialogue option in the tutorial where the Nilfgaardian god asks you what would Geralt do in his position. And he just says, wouldn't be in your position. So if I'm supposed to believe that either of these orgs represents speedrunning on a major level, and GDQ gets no excuses here, because they are that. I don't care what you say. I don't care about your fucking flimsy attempts of saying, but they, yeah, they always have as much power as they need. And if they don't need it anymore, well, you can just kind of discard it. And all their weird bans, and all the shady goings on, and all the other shit. And probably all these sex orgies and drug orgies that seem to be happening there. I know they kind of kept this quiet too. You don't want to know what's going on these events, because it's just also the nature of these events. There's some fucked up shit though. Sure, if you just dig deep enough and ask some people, you can find shit. It's sad that there are no whistleblowers, by the way. Because especially for GDQ, you're not staying that, nah. That nose isn't clean. But you know what? I'll put that to the wayside. The reason why this bothers me, and the reason why I find this so annoying, that neither of them can even sort of approach a good level of transparency, or ever a high level of transparency that they should. In my estimation, anyway, I don't know. Never run a charity. I'm not major part of what they keep chanting as a fucking part of the community. I'm not that. So I'll just tell you, Edenal, what I'd do different. I'd lay it all on the ground. Every single number that you get. Be as fucking transparent as you will. I know you can't do that, by the way. Don't worry. And you're also not going to do that. None of you are going to do that. So all I ask, the least amount that you should do is state your affiliation with the events that you work with, and if you're a volunteer or if you get paper. I don't even care how much. Because let's be real here, Cent is probably, if he does this voluntarily, he's probably the most underpaid talent that speedrunning has for the things that he is doing. So yeah, there you go. Here, another super nice positive take for you, Riekelt. I promise I will hopefully not mention you again so much. He just triggers me so much because when I think of this, it's just like, don't talk negative. Because people like that usually want to shut down conversation. And that's evil. I find that evil. Especially on issues like that. When they are so huge. But you know what? Maybe they're not huge after all, right? It's just money. It's just money that people give you. Don't worry about it. Shut up. Why are you even asking? Alright, that's all. Take care.